Chapter 31. In the house, Steve pulled Nick aside. "I had a breakthrough last night." He kept his voice low, not wanting to disturb the girls as they chatted in the next room. "Why doesn't that sound like you finally got laid?" The con chuckled. "I don't know how you've managed to hold out this long." Steve scowled. "Not funny. I need you to keep an eye on her for me while I do some things at my place." Nick sobered at Steve's serious look. "Sure, but what are you afraid of? You think she'll run?" Steve's grimace told the clan leader he'd guessed right. "I'll keep her from going anywhere." "What's the issue?" Steve shook his head. "Not my place to tell, but I need to call Karen and see if she can see Jade today." Nick's brows shot up. "That bad?" Steve's face darkened with unexpressed rage. "That bad and worse. She's pushed it back and not dealt with it for 6 years, now it's starting to surface again." "Anything I can do?" "Just keep an eye on her for now. I need to make that call. I've got a few things to do at my place, but I shouldn't be more than an hour or 2 tops." "Take your time. Do what you gotta do. I'll stay with the girls. You're not far if we need anything." He headed back out. On his way through the kitchen, he stopped and kissed Jade on the head as she sat at the table with Rebecca. "I'll be back as soon as I can, okay?" He sat on his heels as he looked her in the eye. "If you need me, don't hesitate to call. I'll be here in seconds." "I'll be okay," she replied. "Go take care of your stuff." "I'm fine." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. They were haunted this morning. He'd seen haunted eyes before, but seeing them in her face bothered him. He didn't like it. He wanted to see her real smile again, to make her giggle or laugh. He knew right now neither was an option, so he left to do what he could. Back at his place, his first move was to call the clan's Amine, the second female in the pack. Her mate Julio was the cadre, second in charge below Nick. When Steve sealed his mating with Jade, and he had no doubt he would, it was just a matter of time before it happened, that would make her the third female in the clan, not in the chain of command but in dominance. There was no one more powerful in any clan than the first and second pairs, but the Shaku and his mate ranked right below them, even if they would never lead the clan. He sat on the sofa, listening to the line ring. "Hello?" A cultured voice came over the line. "Ma'am, it's Steve. I hope I haven't interrupted you." He paid his respects before asking what he knew was a huge favor. "Not at all. Is something wrong?" She knew he wouldn't have called during office hours for no reason. "Yes and no," he said. "The Khan and Karen are fine, but I have someone who needs to see you as soon as possible." "Does it happen to be that pretty girl who came all the way from Texas to see you?" "Word travels fast." "Not that fast. She's been there for more than 2 weeks. Rebecca called me." Karen was the closest friend Rebecca had in the area, despite the 15-plus-year age difference. Steve grunted. "Can you see her today? Please?" "Just a second, let me pull up my schedule." She paused for a couple moments. "My last appointment for the day at 3 is open. You can bring her to the office, or I can come out there if that would be better." Steve was quiet a moment, considering. Here would probably be better. She's reluctant to talk. Familiar surroundings might help. "All right, can you give me an idea what the issue is?" He hesitated, unsure if he should tell her, then decided if she knew, it might help. "She was raped more than 5 years ago. She never told anyone until I convinced her to tell me last night." "No one?" "Oh dear. I have a few more questions then, if you're comfortable answering them." "I won't know until you ask." "Was her rapist caught?" "I asked the same thing." Yes, she was one of a string of attacks and the only one who survived. From what she said, I'm guessing that was only because she's one of us and we heal faster than normal humans. So he killed his victims. Do you know how? Beat him to death. Do you know if she followed the trial? She said no, but she knew about his sentence and when he died. She said she hadn't watched much, she never wanted to see his face again. She made a noise to let him know she was listening, and he heard the scratch of her pen as she took notes. Where did this take place? Texas A&M campus, 6 to 7 years ago. You planning to look it up? She said she was attacked after her last class before a holiday weekend. I am. If she didn't follow the case, maybe more details about what happened to him will help her get past it and heal. Then there are a couple other things you'll need to know. She said during the attack she tried to shift and couldn't. She said she couldn't shift for weeks afterward. I've never heard of that happening or what might cause it. That's different. I'll look into what might have caused it. Anything else? Yeah. He had to swallow past the lump in his throat before he could say it. She was a virgin before he attacked her. She groaned. I take it, she hasn't been with anyone since the attack? I'm certain she hasn't. There's one more thing, since then anytime a male touches her other than blood family it burns her skin, I seem to be the only exception. Rebecca said the two of you are potential mates, is that true? Yes, ma'am. I understand you knew her before the attack, knew you were potential mates before her rape? Yes, ma'am. All right. I'll be there about 3:30, I'll see you then. Oh, he hesitated. I promised her that if she wanted, I'd stay with her while she talked to you. It was the only way I could get her to agree to see you, even once. Not a problem. If you being there makes her comfortable, you're welcome to stay. All right. I'll see you this afternoon then? This afternoon. Thanks. He knew her coming out to the ranch to see Jade was a favor for him. You're welcome. I'll see you later. He dropped the phone on the charging cradle next to the sofa, then headed to the bedroom. In his room, he quickly emptied several drawers, combining their contents with others. He pushed his clothes to one side of the closet, making room for Jade to put anything she brought. He'd asked her to move in, the least he could do was make room for her. Next, he went into the bathroom and made sure there was space for her to put her makeup and toiletries. He hoped she'd just move in, but he didn't expect it. He'd settle for her bringing a few things for now, enough so she wasn't always hauling things back and forth to the big house. When he'd finished there, he headed for the basement. Basements weren't common in the area, but he'd wanted space for his gym, and hadn't wanted to add another room to the house's footprint, so he'd added the basement instead. Downstairs, he taped his hands first, to protect them from the beating he was about to give them. Then he went to the heavy bag he'd hung near one corner of the room, and started trying to work out his rage and frustration. He started with an easy pace, right left right right left. He ignored the aching in his hands and kept going, blocking out everything but his next move. When he finally stopped, he was out of breath and his shirt was dripping with sweat. He took a deep breath, peeled off his shirt and wiped his face. Then he unwound the bloodied tape from his hands, cursing under his breath at the damage he'd done to his knuckles. Heading up the stairs, he knew he had to shower before going for Jade. He wasn't sure how long he'd been gone, but it was probably longer than he'd intended. She wasn't gonna be happy about what he'd done to his hands.